Now we head to the penultimate race of the weekend for Junior Road Tax. It's the day 2 pre-final. Let's take you through the starting grid. Thomas Ingram Hill starts from pole position. Kasper Schulmans will be alongside him on the front row, with Boris Maximov and Boer-Louet rounding out the top 2 rows. Matej Radenkovic and James Anagnostiidis round out row 3, with Mika van der Pavert and Thijs van Wijk rounding out a all-Dutch affair on row number 4. Olivier Jonkers and Max Cuthbert from Belgium and the UK round out the top 10, with Max Sadowski, Ryan Bourguignon, Krik Norden, Timo Jungling, Ruben Verheyen, Zach Heslop, Luca Mollard, August Reber, Sebastian Koch, Pierre Devaux rounding out the top 20, with Hugo Lacroix, Kenneth van Moorkerke, Callum Sims, Leopold Ferman and Tay Stevens starting from 25th and on the back of the grid. And we'd like to say a big thank you to everyone, as the YouTube channel has now surpassed the 1,000 subscriber count. So a big thank you to everyone that has subscribed so far to the channel, and may that continue to go in an upward trend in the months and the years to come. We do appreciate your support as always. So it will be 13 minutes plus an additional lap on this 1.45 kilometre circuit in northern France, just it's further south of Lille by about half an hour's drive north. So far, we've had 2 different winners from yesterday. Kasper Schulmans in the pre-final, and in the final, Australia's James Anagnostiidis. What's going to transpire over the next 13 minutes plus an additional lap? Well, we'll very soon find out. The drivers now make their way through the final corner. Red lights on the gantry. Are we ready? Are we steady? Revs rise. Lights are out first time. And straight away, Kasper Schulmans goes wheel to wheel round the outside of Thomas Ingram Hill. They're still neck and neck heading into turn 3. Schulmans slightly nosing ahead. There's a little bit of a slight touch between the pair. Schulmans still round the outside, but Thomas Ingram Hill holds his ground and retains the lead. And now Boris Maximov trying to get his elbows out, but Matej Radenkovic goes up the inside of him for 3rd place through turn number 4. Now up the hill they go into the far right-hand part of the circuit. And Thomas Ingram Hill is holding on to that race lead. Kasper Schulmans now looks, goes into the inside on the approach into the chicane, but there's no room for the 240 from JJ Racing. Through the hairpin at the top right-hand corner, Ingram Hill still hanging on. Schulmans still trying to put the frighteners on him. Anagnostiidis trying to go through on Boer-Louet, but loses at least 1 position. That was to the 246 of Thijs van Wijk, as now Schulmans takes the lead. Ingram Hill has got people up the inside of him, as both Radenkovic and Maximov get through on the 227. Boer-Louet is just behind them. And he's a bit snaking under braking up the inside. Through on Boris Maximov goes Thomas Ingram Hill. Boris Maximov runs a little bit wide. It is his first season in Junior Road Tax. Let's not forget, for the 230 from the Netherlands. Now the field makes its way through up the hill once again. It's the slightest of inclines, but it is quite deceptive from what we see on camera. 2-3 abreast at the mid-pack, and there has been a bit of an incident. 3 carts, maybe 4 involved, and 1 is stuck on the way up the hill. Cart is stationary at the minute, so that will be more than likely. And that is a Dams Racing cart, and that is the 214 Sebastian Koch being attended to by Dave Ritson as we speak. Marshals and, well, the medical team on their way to assist. And the main thing is Sebastian Koch getting up out of the cart, albeit with a little bit of discomfort. As they will now be going back up at that place where Sebastian Koch has just been involved in a multi-cart incident. I did spot 2 others, but at the moment, the way things stand, Kasper Schulmans continues to lead with 10 minutes and 14 seconds plus an additional lap remaining. Matej Radenkovic remains in second. Thomas Ingram Hill has now fought his way back up into third place. Fourth is Bolowet. Fifth is Thijs van Wijk. But the thing is, the gaps are not that much. I've just seen Max Cuthbert come through, and he's up into sixth position. James Anagnostiidis is now making his way up, back through what was probably the lower part of the top 10. Currently 8th at the minute. Radenkovic loses to Ingram Hill, Louet and Van Wijk, and has got Max Cuthbert breathing down his neck. Max Cuthbert very, very lucky with the incident at the final corner, which brought out the red flag in the Junior Rotax final yesterday afternoon, which meant it had to be put back to the end of the schedule, as it's getting a bit close for comfort between Cuthbert and Radenkovic. An exchange of touches between bumpers. But Thomas Ingram Hill now finds himself in second position. He's got a little bit of ground to make up. Max Cuthbert is the one with the fastest lap out there, 58.177 for the 234, based out of Chelmsford, about 40 minutes south of my current where I currently live. And Schurmans has got a lead of about 0.8 of a second. Fastest lap of the race goes to Timo Jungling at the minute. And where is Jungling at the moment? Well, he's currently 14th, so he's started towards the bottom part of the mid-pack. He's trying to move up the field. And Ralph van der Pavert is also again showcasing the pace that put him up into, I think if I remember correctly, that would have been a third place finish yesterday in the final. So with 8 minutes and 13 seconds still to go on the clock, plus an additional lap, Kasper Schurmans trying to extend his lead. And that looks to be the case. Thomas Ingram Hill looks over his right shoulder, receives Jort van Wijk. Gap now between first and second is just under 8 tenths. Anagnostiidis now puts in the fastest lap. The Aussie now currently up in P7. As Jort van Wijk looking up the inside of Thomas Ingram Hill through at turn number 3 goes the 2.46 from the Netherlands. And now the real race begins, because they've got to start trying to catch up with Schurmans for the race win. And let's not forget, for those folks at home, the actual end result from the pre-final determines the grid for the finals later on today, which will start at 1:45 p.m. local time here in northern France. Thomas Ingram Hill, however, keeping pace, trying to put the pressure on Jort van Wijk, but Matej Radenkovic seizes an opportunity, and there goes, oh, that's Bolowet. Oh, and onto the grass, and kicking up the dust goes Thomas Ingram Hill, and Bolowet gets through, Max Cuthbert gets through, so does James Anagnostiidis. There is Cuthbert right on the heels of Bolowet. They're both looking to the same part of the circuit, and Anagnostiidis goes around the outside of Cuthbert at turn 3. Oh, a little bit of a tussle, and the Aussie's in the barriers. The Aussie hits the tyre barriers. He looked for the high, wide and handsome round the outside of Max Cuthbert, and it just went horribly wrong. All four wheels onto the cross, went rally crossing, and the forward travelling momentum meant that he had no other alternative, and he hit the tyre barriers. I'm not too sure what damage that might have done to any of the tie rods or track rods, or maybe the steering on the car, or maybe even the back axle. But that was very, very lucky that James did not hit that head on. Meantime, there is the 2.45 of Ruben Verheyen. As up the inside of Max Cuthbert goes Boris Maximov, who at one point early doors in this race was running in P2. Max Sidursky now going side pod to side pod with Timo Jungling. Jungling now through, and that'll be for what is effectively 9th place. And James Anagnostiidis, after that incident with the tyre barriers just a few moments ago, has dropped all the way down to 24th. It was an audacious, bold and brave move, but that did not pay off, I'm afraid. But Kasper Schurmans now has just over a 1 second lead at this minute. That could be further expanding. No, it's not. Radenkovic has just cut over 0.2 of a second. That was very, very close indeed. I think that was one of either that was Ryan Bourguignon or Ruben Verheyen trying to go to the inside. There's Olivier Jonkers right at the back bumper of Max Cuthbert, who's got Mika van der Pavet right in front of him. And van der Pavet started in 7th, dropped down the order a little bit in the early goings, and now has returned to his starting position. Timo Jungling in 10th position now has got the fastest lap of the race. That's a 57.649. Cuthbert looking to try and get through on van der Pavet. Max Cuthbert has been doing a lot of running over in Europe these days, where he's been not just competing in the Euro Trophy, but also the BNL, the BMC, Chrono Karting Dutch Championship, and I think, if I remember correctly, might be a little bit of RMC Germany to boot. With just 4 minutes to go. Boulouet is now the fastest driver out on circuit. A little bit of a slight bit of touching between Ralf van der Pavet and Max Cuthbert, and that allows Olivier Jonkers to get through in between the pair of them. There is Timo Jungling, who's been closing in. He's got his fishing rod out. He's trying to cast the reel and reel them in, so to speak. So it's about who's going to blink first, who's going to be late on the brakes heading into the hairpin at the top right-hand corner of the circuit. Well, Timo Jungling sweeps a little bit wider, gets the crisscross. Oh, that was brilliantly timed there by Timo Jungling. He swept wide into the hairpin. He got through around the outside of the left-hander. Now he's up another position. Timo Jungling is now absolutely making mincemeat of the drivers around him. Jungling now up from 10th to 8th. 2 positions gained in the last 4 corners going on to the start-finish straights. And there is also Max Swiderski. Swiderski a little bit sideways to the left-hand side on the rear axle, heading onto the brakes into turn number 3. And Jungling has got past quite a few of the drivers in front of him. Now he's got Max Cuthbert to deal with, who's currently running 7th. There's a little bit of a gap, about 2.6 seconds between Cuthbert and Boris Maximov. We only have 2.5 minutes plus an additional lap remaining in this Junior Rotax Day 2 pre-final. Mateo Radenkovic, in the meantime, trying to close that gap in to Kasper Schurmans. The gap was 0.83 last time round. It's now 7.5 tenths. Thomas Ingram Hill now starting to really light up the rears on that 227 Lando Norris kart. And has just put in the fastest lap, 57.464. Max Cuthbert now has Timo Jungling to the inside, and Jungling is now through. That is 7th position for the 265, based out of London. But Jonkers now is in with the shout of getting past Cuthbert. They're heading into the right-hand hairpin. Jonkers pulls to the inside. Cuthbert trying to hold his ground. And the Belgian gets through nice and cleanly. Van der Pavet's going to have another attempt very shortly. Max Cuthbert has a little bit of a front bumper touch to the rear bumper of Olivier Jonkers. As Radenkovic is closing in once again. Boulouet with another fastest lap of the race, 57.383 seconds. But Mateo Radenkovic has got the gap down to Kasper Schurmans, to within 6.5 tenths. And he's bringing along with him Jort van Wijk. Matthijs van Wijk, and Wijk is actually even quicker at this moment. Matthijs van Wijk can have an opportunity to get past Mateo Radenkovic. Boulouet is in a little bit of no man's land at the minute. He's 1.3 seconds behind 3rd position. Thomas Ingram Hill is just under 7 tenths behind him. 2 more laps to go, including this one that we're just going on now. Lap 14 out of 15 underway. Gap is just under 6 tenths. Bolowet still holding on to the fastest lap of the race of 57.383 seconds for the 2:24 from Dams Racing, representing Belgium. Timer has expired, and now we have just a lap and a half to go. So Shormans has got Matej Radenkovic and Dave van Wijk not too far behind. The gap between the top three was just under 0.8 of a second, as we're heading on to what will very shortly be our 15th and final lap of the penultimate race for Junior Rotax in this third round of the season. One lap to go, gap between the leaders now, 4.5 tenths. It's 6.5 tenths between first and third. If Matej Radenkovic was within 3 tenths of Kasper Schormans, I think there might have been a little bit more danger being felt by the 2:40, but he's controlled the pace once he's gone back to the front end of the field, despite a little bit of a scare early doors when he wasn't on pole position, but he kept side by side, wheel to wheel, with Thomas Ingram Hill for the first 3 corners on the circuit. But Radenkovic might be able to see a little bit of opportunity coming his way, but that depends on how better he comes out of the corners in comparison with Kasper Schormans. Just a handful of corners remaining. Down the hill for the final time they would go. And Kasper Schormans, he picked up the pre-final victory yesterday. He's going to do exactly the same today here in Oosterhout. Kasper Schormans wins from Matej Radenkovic and Thijs van Wijk, rounding out the top 3, covered by just under 4.5 tenths. Bolowet, Thomas Ingram Hill ran out the top 5, with Boris Maximov, Timo Jungling starting from the mid-pack, finishing 7th. Olivier Jonkers, Mika van der Pavert, Max Cuthbert, Max Sadursky, Kenneth van Markerker making it all the way up to 12th position, so great job there by the 241. Ryan Bourguignon, Ruben Verheyen, Krik Noren, Zach Heslop, Luca Muller, Dave Stevens, Callum Sims and Hugo Lacroix ran out the top 20. It could have been a little bit further up the field than what eventually happened with James Anagnostiidis, unfortunately coming into contact with the tyre barriers and ending up 21st ahead of Pierre Devos. And then we've got August Reber and Leopold Fermin rounding out the 24 that finished all 15 laps of racing. And Sebastian Koch, unfortunately, with that multi-cart incident on lap 2, retired from the race with medical assistance coming to him at that point.